Peace, everyone. Peace, how are y'all around? How you doing? Shabbat shalom, man. Yeah, hopefully your day went well. You're moving strong, feeling strong. Especially what we got going on. With this challenge. But yeah, welcome everyone. If you can hear me, and it's not choppy or anything, put a one in the chat. My name is Master Menyelek. You know, um, both names I got from community. We were talking about thankfulness, right? So I'm thankful for even being bestowed these titles, you know, and I do my best to honor them as often as possible. Give thanks. Give me Yakira Eden. I'm thankful for the ones in the chat. Uh, yeah, so of course we got to start it off. Give thanks to the Most High Yah. Give thanks to Chief Yuya for you know really being obedient and creating this space. It's so hard to, it's so hard to even put a name on it because it's so rare, but it's a communal space. It's a kingdom, it's a nation, and it's growing day by day. I see everybody piling in. Peace, Manaya. How you doing? um, she always comes in with a smile. Peace, everybody. But yeah, definitely giving thanks for the strong and coming into the end of another Gregorian year. You know, having the chance to do our physical challenges. Just to see where we're at, doing our mental challenges to really stimulate our minds. Spiritual challenges to pause and reflect, and the one that it gave me the most trouble in the beginning, the love challenge, which is writing a love letter or a letter of appreciation to people who we cherish and people who we're thankful for, and being able to really vocalize or verbalize what it is that we want to say to them based on our interactions, and just giving thanks, being thankful for them being in your life and being a presence. Peace, Salvador Eats. Peace, sister. How you doing? But yeah, I wanted to talk today about, well, first of all, how's everyone doing with the challenge? I'm interested in hearing your responses. Um, Peace, Olympia Ferguson. Peace, welcome. Yeah, I'm really interested in hearing your responses, how you were doing with your challenges. And for anyone who doesn't know, there's a segment on Chief Yuya's channel. I guess you could, it's going to be in the description below. Someone could also put it in the chat as well. Someone usually does. Usually Naya. She's real fast on the trigger. Um, but yeah, there was a challenge issued by Chief Yuya for the month of December. And it's been really, really, really eye-opening with some things that I didn't realize I could do, and some things that I didn't realize what they could do for me until I did it, or what it could do for others. Particularly speaking about that love challenge, and people really appreciate it when you appreciate them. They appreciate it when you reach out and say, "Hey, listen, we've known each other for a while," and sometimes you think that certain things are they're just obvious. Well, I appreciate you. You know that, but saying it and vocalizing how and why, and even the things that you do. That there we go. I just posted the link in the chat. So anyone can check that out later. And I'd still encourage you to do it, even if you're starting late. I'd still say do it. Do it. Even if it takes you into January, or if you do it for January, it's still a good experience to go through and um, learn where some of your limitations are, where some of your strong suits are. Like I was saying with the love challenge, I typically don't verbalize to people how much I care about them. I try to show and not tell, but both are good. Both are good, and it frees you up as well. I was holding on to things that I didn't even realize were there, and through writing and verbalizing how I felt about people, um, it helped me to release certain things and move into a different state of being. Speaking of which, today's mathematics is born, and with born, you're dealing with the number nine. And I bring that up because I don't know, I just looked at the date. So today's mathematics is born, and even with the episode number, episode 81. So you're talking about moving or manifesting something or bringing something into existence based on what was done or what was taught or what was practiced or what was learned previously. And what you bring forth is based on what's been gestating in the womb of your mind, what's been gestating inside of the spirit. Emily Kira Eden says, okay, we got some people. The challenge has been progressing well. Similar to you, the love letters have been a challenge in the beginning. Oh, and then push-ups are brutal blessing. My form is way off, but I try each day. Yeah, man. Working on that form is good too for what do they call it? Equilibrium. You could typically you have one weak side and one stronger side, and you're usually stronger with your dominant hand. It's the one you use more. You engage more muscles because you do more activities. Whether it's turning a doorknob or um, when you're driving, even playing instruments, you use your dominant hand more. So it's good to give your less dominant hand some play so that they can um, be a little bit more balanced. But yeah, that's cool. Those push-ups are yeah, but you know what? The results are really worth it. The results are really good. I found myself lifting certain things where I thought they weighed less because what I was lifting was like cement bags and stuff like that. The weight is on it, and I was like, huh. I thought this was 20 pounds. you know, but yeah, man, they really strengthen you. And the beautiful thing about a physical challenge, especially, is that the results are easy to measure, and they're I wouldn't say they're immediate, but they're immediately apparent. If someone says be a better person, I can't measure that immediately. But if I say, all right, um, get down on the floor, do push-ups till you can't do them no more, I can immediately assess where you are, like where you're at with your push-ups. Same with squats and sit-ups and physical challenges. I could look at you and say, okay, you should fix this more. Fix your form, or you're a little off on the left side, or you tend to drop your hips when you're getting tired. I know when you're getting tired, so we'll go up until that point. We'll take a break, and then we'll start working on pushing through it with better form. Stuff like that. Those are types of things that a physical trainer may tell you as they're working with you. The mental challenge is kind of difficult because you can read a lot and retain nothing. You gotta apply it. That's an aspect of reading too. So it's also good to have that meditation space. Meditating was like I didn't realize I could sit still for so long, and I also didn't realize how much of a challenge it is to sit so still and just have like focus on breathing. Sometimes I just use the meditation time to sit and work things out, knowing that it's a set time to work things out. I don't have to worry about my phone ringing or someone knocking on the door. It's just me and the problem, until it's solved. And sometimes it's just me not doing anything, which is almost the antithesis of how I move. I see some more in the chat. Sovereign Eat says, yes, it's true. One student described as a hot ball of feeling good in her chest. Okay. All right. Uh, let's see. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Yamina. Mind blown. It's as if the challenge is necessary to birth that master builder. Yeah, yeah, I think so because it helps you to it humbles you first of all because it's like it's like yeah I'll do this challenge, yeah I can do those push-ups, then you got to do them every day. You know, the first couple of days wasn't really nothing. It's when it was like fourth day, fifth day, and your body's starting to like it's like you're accumulating damage, you know. And it's not until like Shabbat when you don't do anything, you lay down and you rest, and then after you get back up, it's like whoa, you know, I didn't realize how sore I was. Peace, Sister Yafe. Imanaya says the challenge is going well. I notice meditation has me writing more and having more creative thoughts. The push-ups are still push-ups are still trying to take me out, but I won't be defeated. Good. Good. There was I have a good friend who was a good brother of mine. He likes to tell the story of I don't know how he catches people in their most vulnerable moments, but he has a knack for that. And there was this elder gentleman. He was like running. Apparently, he was jogging for a while because he was like at his breaking point. Like he saw him visibly like crouch down to gather, I don't know, his inner strength, and he just started yelling like, "Never give up!" And he continued running. That's always funny to me. But yeah, don't let it defeat you. Sovereignty says the challenge is life giving. I would say push ups are licking me left, right, and center. Yeah, you know, still gotta push. So yeah. Softer Lynn says this challenge has motivated me to focus on the physical, mental, and spiritual every day. Yeah, because that was another thing, Softer Hava, sorry, excuse me. That was another thing that I noticed. We we lean towards we tend to lean towards the things we're good at, you know, because I'm excited for the physical challenges, but when I gotta do like the love challenge, it's like you know, you just put it off, you know, put it off. Yeah, because I challenge myself physically anyway, but the sit down and do it, and it reveals something that's off about you, you know, and lets you know, okay, this is something you need to do. Like, why? You know, why are you so averse to doing this? I thought you liked these people. You know, I thought you appreciated them. Why is it so hard for you to say it? You know, it's an ego thing. So that's something you got to focus on. So it shines the spotlight on what's going on with you internally and your interpersonal and your intrapersonal relationships. You know, interpersonal is with people around you. Intrapersonal is like your internal relationships. Sister Yafe says, answer, the physical part is fun. Yeah, I know, right? I feel my form getting better on my push-ups. As for the writing, yeah, the journaling is getting done, but the letter writing is a whole another story. Why is everyone struggling with these letters? You know, including me, I'm everyone. But why is everyone struggling with these letters? Huh, that's interesting. Maybe it's related to, you know, what I wanted to speak about tonight. Oh, we got another one. Anu Radio says, I'm noticing a difference in the tone of letters to myself and to others is much different, which is telling in itself. I'm enjoying the moments to read more. Big up. to the Helios Biblios. Okay, so you've been reading your Bible more. Yeah, what is everyone reading? That's that's um that's another interesting thing because we have the 30 minutes reading 30 minutes a day. What's everyone reading? I'll leave that out there. You all can put it in the chat. But yeah, that's sort of what related to what I wanted to speak about because it kind of, I wouldn't say it inspired the topic, but my experience with the letter writing definitely helped me to conceptualize it a lot differently. And the topic we're dealing with is load shedding, which I've heard the term before, but it was I don't know. I was looking for something. I was searching for something, and a video showed up, and in the title it was talking about load shedding, and it sounded like a double entendre in that moment because I heard it before. I'd experienced it because we live on islands in the Bahamas, so you got to deal with blackouts now and then until the power company can get their stuff together. Um, but yeah, load shedding is when a power company can only issue out a certain amount of electrical charge. Like they can only give out certain electricity, and it has to be equal or proportionate to the demand that people are putting on the grid, basically. So when you have people using the electrical grid, you have let's say you have what's known as peak hours. So peak hours would be when I wake up, um, I turn the lights on, I go to the kitchen, I turn on the coffee machine. If you drink coffee, I make breakfast. If you eat that early, I I turn on the news. If you watch the news, I you go through this list of all of the electrical devices you interact with. So that's what you would call peak hours when people wake up and after people get home from work. That's another thing. Because first thing you do when you get home from work, you turn on the lights, you might turn on the TV, you plug in your phone to charge it. Those are all peak hours. And it puts a slightly extra strain on the grid. And what happens is if they're already operating at like if they're pushing it and you put too much of a strain on the grid, what happens is they have fail safes in place to make sure that the power will turn off before you overload their equipment because it's much easier to fix that problem than to replace those machines. Like, because then everyone's got to be out of power for a while. So load shedding is just, it's sort of like if you're lifting weights and you have a spotter, right? We don't have weightlifting in this physical side of the challenge this time, but lifting weights, right? If you're lifting heavy weights, especially if you're inexperienced, you typically have a spotter. So you have someone behind you who's like ready to catch the weights if you can't lift them anymore, right? You may be on like 97 and you really want to get to 100, but as far as you can get is 88 and a half. So as you're pushing through that half, before your arms give out and those weights come crashing back into your chest or into your face, your spotter will grab the weights and help you to put it back on the rack, right? So that's kind of what load shedding is. They're taking the load or the burden from you and putting it in a space until you can like almost like a giant fuse. Yeah, exactly. Olympia Ferguson, almost like a giant fuse. And people do use fuses. Like that's one of the fail safes. But the issue with a fuse is you can only use it once, and it can't help with like if there's a breakage in the line. So fuses only work so well. But yeah, with the spotter, they can take it from you until you can like get yourself together, do your breathing, chant to yourself, never give up, get to that 100, and then you stabilize yourself, right? So you have a blackout, you experience a blackout. That's what a load shedding is. So I was thinking about it. I was like, sometimes we need those periods of load shedding, and seeing that we're in the solstice season, and this is the time when energy sort of gets a little lower, nights are longer. Um, it's more of a time to not necessarily be high energy externally, but to do a lot of um, internal examination and internal analysis to see what may be actually overburdening you or what may need to go, or like those journal entries, or even giving thanks for the year like Chief was giving and speaking about in that podcast. You look at what's been going on that year, and you can just review it like objectively, say, oh yeah, that happened, yeah, that happened, yeah, I did almost get bitten by a tarantula, but I survived. I don't know where that spider came from. And I don't know where he went, where he disappeared to when I picked up my slipper to kill it, and I turned around and he wasn't there anymore. But I'm thankful that it's not there at all. You know, yeah, it's not there. You know what I meant? So you go over different things, but you may be like, yeah, that business idea did not work out. But I didn't fail completely because I still have some experiential wisdom. I didn't really lose that much money. I didn't lose as much money as I could have. And I actually invested in the next one and I bounced back, so you live and learn. I'm thankful for that. Um, okay, this person has been getting on my nerves a lot lately. And it's because um, I haven't been as accommodating to people who come at me with malicious intent, or people who try to start arguments out of the blue, or overly masculine females or overly feminine men. I haven't been allowing that around my space so often. So this person they need to make their exit because it's putting more of an energetic strain on me to not say um, what's going on. So those love letters, they kind of work in a similar way. It may put more of a strain on you to not say, listen, I appreciate you. And you may not realize it until you say, hey, you know, um, I really appreciate you. And usually they're like, where's this coming from? Because usually people only say thank you as like a receipt for something you did. You say, I've acknowledged that you did something for me. Thank you. You know, and it's not to say like that's all it is, but sometimes you feel like it's enough, but it's good to go that extra mile and say, or really just be reciprocal and just say, listen, like, thank you. And we're like, oh, it's nothing. No, no, really, thank you. You know, but yeah, but the load shedding, I thought it was really interesting because I went back to look at, this was like like a half hour before this live. I was like, oh, I didn't check out the blog. The blog that's posted every strong, every first day, every or Sunday on Anu Life Global. You know, and this one was talking about um, I'm trying to remember exactly what the challenge was, but it was speaking about having that internal fire that's constantly burning, right? And the lesson it was pulling from was integrity. Chief Yuya's lesson on integrity. It's one of the first segments I saw. Um, integrity, honor, warrior code. That series was like one of the first ones I saw, like where I actually saw like Chief moving and stuff. Like, oh, it's the person with a body. Before then, it was like a disembodied voice. Yeah, man. But I'm seeing some stuff in the chat, so I'll go here and then I'll come back to what we're talking about. Sister Yahweh says, if I'm being honest, I think as I went down my list, I'm realizing there are some I may not really want to write in this dispensation. Why? It could be, like you said, ego or just laziness. I'm sure you know. I'm gonna say nothing. We typically know. But I don't feel like writing this person. But why? Yeah, I know why. you know, um, yeah, I had to put in a PS for some folks to let them know. Oh, yeah, yeah. I had to, I had to sort of preface it with the challenge as well, because especially with me, like for me to just come out the bloom and be like, listen, I really appreciate you. You've done so much for me. It's like, where you going? um, but yeah, man, the the reassessment that we get through doing these challenges also help us to know like what kind of loads we can bear and which ones are like which ones we could kind of level up with, you know. We all have these internal limiting systems or these limiters that exist in our minds that say, okay, I think that's enough. You may be speaking to someone and you give them a lot, and there's something in your mind that says, okay, I think that's enough. Maybe you should ask them some questions to see if they're following what you're saying so far. And if they have any issues, then you can deal with that and then continue with what else you may want to say to them. 3 sentences in, you may have answered their question. And that internal limiter lets you know, okay, this is enough. On the other side, too, you may have a more negative based movement. A negative not meaning wrong or bad, negative just, you know, um, it's more contractive. It may not be as expansive as I should say this because of this reason. It may be I shouldn't say this because of this reason. And as Chief often said, this is a realm of duality, right? So neither is superior or inferior to the next one. But I found it interesting that in that blog he referenced, it referenced integrity because it was sort of like what I wanted to talk about because you're dealing with the structural integrity of the grid, right? Power grid, but you're also dealing with your own energetic grid internally. How many things can you bear, or how many things can you honestly suffer in your life? Suffer being like suffer the little children. Like how many things can you accommodate in your life that don't align with what you're doing or don't align with how you're moving? And in the segment, I listened to some of it while leading up to this. And this quote, I wrote it down, I typed it out. This quote from Chief Yuya during that segment. He says, when we're dealing with integrity, we understand that we are always in alignment with what our original intention is. We do not allow anyone to blemish or touch that essence. Like that's, we got around and say it's powerful. It's powerful. And yeah, that original intention speaks so much to our approach. Because sometimes our approach could be, I can't go on, and depending on the context, if you're wise, depending on the context, and you'll know that they're not they're not necessarily moral, like they're not really moral indicators of how good we are or how bad we are. We're dealing with the realm of what it is we're here to do and how we best envision ourselves getting there, based on where we're at currently, and based more importantly on that original intent. So whether you're on the yin side or the yang side, the original intent is somewhere on the spectrum, and you move and you realize it's like dealing with electricity is not so much AC, it's not so much DC, direct current. You're not moving in one singular way. It's more like AC where you're moving. You can move this way or that way, this way or that way. You know, yin or yang, based on what it is, what kind of situation you're in. You know, it's it's like Ecclesiastes, verse chapter 3. It starts from verse 1. Everybody knows that there's a movie entitled based off of the verse. You know, to everything there's a season, and once you have the ability to watch the seasons and see what season it is, you know how you should be moving. You know what you can tolerate, and you know what you can't tolerate. You know, based on your imperatives. You know, so if I want to raise healthy children, I can't tolerate someone feeding them junk. Like I'm not allowed to. You know, it's not even I don't like it. I'm not allowed to do it based on my imperatives or the original intent. You know, and some people would be like, "Well, what's wrong with children? Like, they need candy too. They need to have a good childhood too." You know, you equate a good childhood with sugar, and this is why you're not invited. You know, this is why I don't show up to your barbecues, because you're entitled to feed my children junk. You know, but yeah, we have those limiters, and saying I can't go on or saying I can handle it. They can both have positive and negative effects. You know, so if you're running and you know you got 3 miles to do today, and you're at 2.5, you can stop and be like, I can't go on, and that could be a lie. You probably have 4 miles in you, but pushing beyond two is it's such an eye opener, because maybe you don't run at all, that you just stop yourself, you cap yourself off at the 2.5, as opposed to pushing to the three, which was the original intent. I'm gonna run 3 miles. You know, you gotta pull it that never again. I'm gonna say that as much as I can tonight. Never give up. But you gotta be able to pull that out of you when it's necessary. But if you're running and you know you trip and twist your ankle, or you hit your big toe on a rock and you're wearing soft shoes and your foot is bleeding, you say, "Oh, I can't go on." It may be wise to not keep running on that foot. You know, go to get it checked out, and that way you could live to run another day. You know, and the same goes with I can handle it. You know, you may be doing the same thing, running 3 miles, and at the 2.5 mile mark, you say, I can handle it. You know, this is the yang aspect, the expansive aspect now. Before it was the yin aspect, where it's like you have the negative, or you have the contractive, like I can't, or I will not, go on. Or you can have the positive, but I will go on, I can handle it. Yeah, my foot is bruised, but I can handle it. My toe is busted, but I can handle it. And depending on what the original intent is, it may be something that is more than just running 3 miles. You may be pushing to say, I need to run 3 miles, but I need to run 3 miles to get to something very important, so that I don't miss an important moment, or maybe to offer some aid to someone, or maybe there's an emergency where it's like, if I don't make it, like someone is gonna not be alive tomorrow. It may be a situation like that, or it may be a situation that's like, nah, I'm a punk. I keep running. I keep running. Yeah, I have a twisted toe to this day because I hit my foot on a rock while I was running the beach, and to this day it's bent and crooked. You know, he's sleeping on his side while everyone else is sleeping on their stomach. Yeah. So there's a time and a place for everything, right? For everything there's a season, and when you're wise, you can understand the utility of both the yang and the yin. And it's like AC and DC. But AC, or alternating current, you can say, well, I can move I can move this way, I can move that way. You know, I could go up, you know, I can be very high voltage, or I could go down and be low voltage. I saw something interesting while I was looking into electricity. I didn't realize like our light bulbs do that. Like they go to a high voltage, then they go to low, then the high, then the low. Apparently, our light bulbs blink, like they get bright and get dim, so that we would see it as blinking or flashing, but they blink like 50 times a second, and we don't even see it. You know, but when you're moving at a certain frequency, people won't be able to see it. They'll see it as a constant movement, and maybe they don't have the eye to see when you're in your expansive moments and you're ready to take on the world, or you're in your contractive moments and you don't necessarily you don't feel like doing nothing, you know, at the extreme levels. And depending on the load that you carry, it can amplify it. You know, like Chief had said in Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, when you have a dysfunctional relationship and you think that marriage is gonna solve the issue, you know, like if we get married, then all of our issues will go away, or the it's gonna show us that love conquers all. But it doesn't really. It actually exacerbates whatever problems you already have. It amplifies them. So whatever you're carrying with you, moving into that next space, there's just some things that you have to shed, you know, because you're moving into a space where the energy demand is a lot greater than it was before. And your energy output has to match that. But you can't match it if you're busy allocating energy into spaces where it doesn't really make sense to allocate it. Especially like you have people around you who, I call them remora. Remora are like those fish that latch on to sharks when they're swimming and they hitch a ride. They don't have to swim. They just have to move with whatever the shark is doing. Like people are like remora sometimes. They just latch onto you and they go for the ride. And it's not until you look at them like with a scrutinizing eye, it's like, I'm not a shark. Like I have hands. I can I can take you off of me. You know, I'm one with no fence. So yeah, yeah, man. All the verses in the chat. Give thanks. You know, um, to everything there's a season, a time to get, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away, a time to rend, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. Right? Everything has its season. And I watched the movie last night, and there's an interesting parallel with energy and this AC and DC concept. This movie is like an old Chinese movie. I think it came out in the early 90s or the late 80s, and it's called Twin Warriors. Sometimes it's called Tai Chi Master, but Twin Warriors is kind of more appropriate. It's about these two Shaolin monks who grew up together in a monastery, Jinbo and Junbo, right? And Junbo is it Junbo? I always get them confused. And I promised myself I would write down the names of which actor played which, and I did not. I think I made a note here though. Yeah, I did. So Jinbo is the one who was more yang. Oh, it was the 90s. Okay, give thanks on the radio. Jinbo is more yang oriented, right? He seems to be a little older. He's much more worldly. And Junbo, who's actually played by Jet Li, I can't remember. I looked up the name of the actor who played Jinbo, and then I lost it. So apologies, Jinbo. But Junbo or Jet Li's character, he was more people would call it naive, but he was more pure-hearted. There wasn't much that he wanted from life. He was content to have what he had, and he didn't really have that ambitious let's go out and get stuff. That was more Jinbo. So Jinbo was more of a yang energy, like let's acquire things, or I want to move up in life, or I don't want to be at the bottom, I want to be at the top. He had that fiery energy. Even the way that he fought in a way where he sought to dominate his opponent. So we could say he used more force, right? Or he moved in one direction, like AC current. I mean, like DC current. Sorry, DC being that direct current, right? I'm gonna punch a hole through you, if you don't get out of my way. And Jumbo is more. He was strong. Like he was super strong. It wasn't like he was always like I don't want to fight, but he would fight to end the fight. Whereas Jinbo was like I'm seeking power right now, and I'll do what I need to do to get it. Chin Suo, that's his name, right? Thanks on the radio. He was Chinbo. Um, and as they move through the movie, you see the different seasons that they go through. But in each season, the one constant is that they're both friends. So I'm gonna pause, and this is like story time. I'm gonna pause the story time because I want to ask a question, right? And that is there a trait that you've had since childhood that you still have today? Seeing that we're talking about integrity and um, original intention. Like for me, I always, I don't know why, but anytime I did something I wasn't supposed to do, you know, anything that was wrong or any mischief, I didn't see it that way. But sometimes I just knew I shouldn't do it. But everybody else was doing it. And anytime I got engaged in that, I would always be like separated from the crowd. So my brother sent me a video of my late grandfather was in the background, and it was like a 10-second video, but it was Halloween, and I dressed up as a ghost. I didn't have no elaborate costume. I just threw I threw something together. I threw a sheet over my head. I had the glasses with the fake nose and the mustache, and a fedora, and flip flops. And I only had that one pair of flip flops, so everyone could just look at my feet and know who it is. But we went to our neighbor's house, a couple of houses up the street, and everybody was chilling until everyone decided to throw eggs at passing cars. And I don't know if everyone was scared to hit them because they were right there. But the car drove past, and my egg was the only one that hit it. And I don't know why they knew, but somehow, first of all, everybody snitched on me. Second of all, I got singled out either way. So I got sent home. Everybody else was able to chill at the party, but I got sent home that night. And it always happens. I can't be in the group where the group is gonna get punished. I always get singled out. Like you go that way, or they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" um, but yeah, like a trait that you've had since childhood that you still have today. Today, I still I have this thing where and I mentioned it last time I was on. I think I did. I think that was when I mentioned it. Like I would always like I can't get far with doing messed up or things that I'm not supposed to do or things that aren't in alignment with my original intent. I always get the Sandman treatment. There's this shepherd's crook that just comes from off stage and just yanks me. That this isn't the theater or stage play you're supposed to be in. So I thought it was an interesting thing to put to the chat. What did you do when you were younger? Or like what kind of trait did you have when you were younger that you still have now? I still have a very cutting way of speaking to people. Like I would just keep quiet until someone prods me, and then I try to say something really sharp and end the whole conversation with one cutting remark and just leave you like ready to explode like a fembot from Austin Powers. That was another thing that was kind of constant, and I still have that today. But I try to step back and be like, you know what, like, what's the real issue here? What you got going on? You know, and that leads it somewhere else. But just know, you know, I got it. You know, but back to the story, right? These twin warriors, Chinbo and Junbo. So I'll go like a brief chronology, but I'm just highlighting the seasons of their relationship and that relationship with their original intent. Um, so as they go through it, first thing you realize, like the first interaction they have, Junbo was at the monastery first. So even though he's smaller and he seems younger, he's technically um, Chinbo's senior. So that's how his teacher introduces them. Junbo, this is going to be your new senior. You know, Chinbo, since you're new here, Junbo is going to teach you how to deal with the monastery. He's going to show you around. And as soon as the teacher left, Junbo is like, okay, Junior. And he's like, hold on, wait right there. You ain't calling me no Junior. So let's get that straight right now. If anything, I'm older than you, so I should be calling you Junior. You know, and Junbo is like, it doesn't bother him, but he's more concerned with breaking the rules or doing something wrong. So he's like, well, it that's not how it works. And he's like, well, listen, when nobody's around, how about I'm the senior and you're the junior? And he's like, okay, you know, works for me. And on the radio says having a sense of humor and helping people relieve tension. Yeah, you always got something funny to say. You know, I did the same thing when I was younger though, because I was a middle child. So I would just walk past an argument and drop a bomb and keep walking. Say something funny and just keep walking. Um, but yeah, they go through it. Chinbo constantly gets Junbo in trouble because if it wasn't for him, he would just be going with the motions. But because of their relationship, they both get stronger because there's a constant tension of expansion and contraction. Let's do this versus we can't do this, you know, or let's do this. And it's like, in order to not get caught, let's do it this way, you know? So it's sort of that type of relationship. And it gets to the point where they ask their master to teach them martial arts. And like the very next scene, they they beat up someone who's picking on Chinbo. And he's stronger than both of them. So like they put a bag over his head and keep punching him. But Junbo is so innocent. The guy's like, yeah, I know it's you, Junbo. And he's like, did you say Jun? Did you say my name? And he's like, Chinbo is like, how could you fall for that? You know, but he doesn't have the he doesn't have the slickness in him. You know, he has to learn about it over time, and he learns that through being around um, Chinbo. But what happens is because they're so close, they have sort of like a symbiotic relationship. I wouldn't call it, I wouldn't go so far as to call it codependent, but it's very symbiotic where they both know their energy and they stick with it. Right? They don't try to do anything outside of their energy. So they go through a couple of hardships, which leads them. I don't want to spoil the whole movie in case you want to check it out, but it leads to them leaving the monastery, and they go out into the world, and they split up. You know, throughout their whole journey, they've always been friends and they've always been together, and now they have to split up. Right, talking about load shedding, because my journey can't accommodate you. You don't want to go where I'm trying to go. So they wind up splitting up, and they meet again, and they still have this relationship, you know, but because they're not there to balance each other out, Junbo is more relaxed, and he's cool with just going with the flow. so he doesn't have any drive or ambition to it. And Jinbo has too much ambition, and he's getting to the point where it's, it's getting problematic. You know, again, I'm not gonna spoil it, but they get to this point where they really do have a falling out, and it sends Junbo into like a spiral. Like he almost loses his mind. He does kind of. You know, he doesn't go permanently insane, but he does have a moment of intense shock where he can't believe his friend just betrayed him. You know, so what ends up happening is the woman that he's with, you know, he helps her to get over her moments of shock too, where she's like drinking and trying to drown her sorrows, and he gives a pin pound of justice. He slaps some sense into her. And after that, like they're really cool, and I thought it was really a nice touch. But in every scene, like she still drinks wine, but every scene her portions are progressively smaller, which I thought was a nice touch. Until eventually she's so hell bent on helping Junbo to recover that she's not drinking. She's just all of her energy is focused on helping this man who helped her, you know, and pouring into him and serving him, and helping him whatever she can. And I like with Chinese movies where it doesn't have to always be sexual, you know, like in Western media, you can't even like have a good relationship with someone unless you had sex with them already. You know, you can't just be in the same room without sexual tensions being all the way up here. And no one having any type of control. So as soon as you look at someone, they look at you, it's on. You know, just give me that look, it's on. And cut to the next scene, they're already in someone's bed. But in Chinese movies, like you don't even typically see them touch one another. You know, they like at least I've seen that with the films I've seen. I can't speak for all Chinese media, but I have seen that a lot with certain media. Like they don't touch one another. They're not always holding hands or leaning on each other or kissing. Like they can be in the same room and speak to each other with respect without there being like, all right, when are they gonna do it? um, Imanaya says being curious and wanting to see what will happen. What will happen if? I still want to know what will happen if. What you talking about? Sometimes I follow through depending on the situation. You sound like Dee Dee from Dexter's Laboratory. It's like, ooh, what does this button do? Oh, give thanks. Yeah, definitely like, share, subscribe. You know, all that good stuff help the channel grow. Liking helps. Commenting helps. Sharing out, not just commenting in the chat, you know, which is usually active, but commenting underneath the video, it helps out. You know, so if this content is helping you, channel is helping you, be sure to leave a comment, share the video with someone who you think it might help. Share the challenge, you know, and do like a buddy challenge. Find like an accountability partner and be like, okay, let's do this challenge. You know, I won't let you back out, and you won't let me back out. You know, let's hold each other accountable and grow together. Um, Sovereign Eat says, because you know better, a trait that I have is my curious exploration fearlessly. Another is to create a space to resolve conflict and to bring peace. Yeah, you know, it's hard to be nasty in a clean room and not be noticed. You know, people like chaotic environments because they can hide like their sickness in it. When you're in a clean room, it's like, oh, where do I put my stuff? um, let's see. Manaya says exactly. I like buttons. Mixing things, taking things apart, see if it would still work. With missing pieces or parts. You sound like my cousin. You can't leave nothing around him. that is broken or near broken, and he does his now. um, where was I with the story? Oh yeah, this is like one of the impetus for the topic as well, because it's, even with the name too. Because when I saw the word load shedding, I immediately thought of the scene where they getting kind of uh I don't want to say fed up because they're really patient with Junbo and what he's going through because they understand how close he was with his friend, so they can understand the shock. So she's like, okay, maybe sometime in the country will help you out. So she takes him out into the countryside, away from the city, and they're walking through some fields. And she shows him this tree trunk that fell over. And it's like, and she's like, you see this tree trunk? It has some sprouts growing up on the side. It's like, even though it fell, it can still grow, and renew itself. This is MacGyver behavior. Exactly. Yeah, this tree trunk can renew itself, and it was showing like the new growth coming out of it. So right as he's looking, Junbo, like he's having a moment of clarity, and he's looking at these um, sprouts, and one of the brethren who was walking through the field, he was carrying like firewood, right? He must have went out to collect firewood, and he has it strapped to his back, so he's carrying, he's lumbering along, and one of the other brothers from the village came, and he's like, hey, didn't you hear? Like your wife's about to give birth. Come on, hurry. Come on, hurry. You're gonna miss it. And he still has the firewood on his back. He just starts lumbering faster, you know, lumber times three. Get it? And no pun intended. I just got that lumbering carrying wood. Anyway, you know, I'll be here all week. But he starts moving faster, and the guy he's running because he ain't got nothing. So he says, "Come on!" And he turns around to start running, and he looks back and he sees it like, "What are you doing? Still carrying that wood?" He says, "Take that off, um, put that down, and let's hurry. You can deal with that later." And he says, "Put down your burden," and that's what's like it makes it click for Junbo. He starts repeating it. Free yourself. Make light your burden. He says it like 3 or 4 times, and after a while, he reads the scroll that their master gave them when they left. Because when they were leaving the monastery, even the master is like, Junbo, your tender-heartedness will be enough for you, But Jinbo, you trouble me, So he gives him this scroll about the Tao, right? Because this is Tai Chi. He gives him the scroll about the Tao, and he says, if you ever find that you've lost your way, just open the scroll and start reading it. So this is what Junbo starts doing, and he starts learning about and developing Tai Chi, right? And that one line is what came to mind when I saw the load shedding word. Free yourself, make light your burden. And again, your burden could be the energy demands that have been placed on you or that you placed on yourself that may not necessarily be they may not have been always been irrelevant. This is the thing about the alternating current, and having the wisdom to see when a season has passed. They may not have always been irrelevant. They may have just become irrelevant, because something can become irrelevant in a moment, or it could have been irrelevant, but it takes a certain moment of clarity for you to realize something's off here. Like what? Typically, that's how I avoid arguments, because someone says something and it's so left. I pause and step back, like, what are we talking about? And whatever they say, it lets me know what kind of season is going on between me and this person, because yeah, we're not doing that. But yeah, those are some of the things that I wanted to really speak about. There's some more to it as well, Even with Chinbo and his desire for women, because they're monks, so Junbo is still moving like a monk, so that even if he like a woman was fainting and he caught her, and Chinbo, I think it's kind of jokingly, but he's like, you do know that you're touching a woman, right? And he kind of drops her and he's like, I've sinned, please forgive me. you know. Um, but even with that electrical urge, again, in the Anu way, it says, let me see if I think I put it up. Yeah, I did. Yeah, a man will use his physicality to interface with the woman in order to find a grounding point for his own electrical charging, right? So we need that grounding point. Men being the yang aspect, and women being that feminine yin aspect. We need that yin, that grounding energy. Otherwise, it can be like I think what Sister Omega was talking about, fuses, right? You can have a fuse, and if the energy levels spike, the fuse would just cut it off. You break the fuse, it's just gonna stop. But if like a wire is ruptured or something like that happens, you can have what's called an arc. And what happens with that is sometimes the air can become a conductor for electricity. So it basically like let's say this is, get this camera right. Let's say this is a breakage in the line. The line was there and then it snaps, and the energy is coming. Let's say well, it's gonna look like the right for you. So let's say this is the positive and this is the negative, right? And the energy is coming from this direction. So what's going to happen is the energy is going to try to jump the gap between these two conductors, because there's still copper there, but it's just not together. So it's going to try and jump the gap, and you get like an arc. And if you're not careful with that arc, it can hit some stuff and start a fire. You know, that breakage between the masculine and feminine, when you break that link, there's a lot of energy that gets released. If it's not done in an amicable way, obviously you can discharge, right? Discharge the lines, turn off the breaker, discharge the lines, and then disconnect the lines in a harmonious and safe way. But if you just like, but I don't care, you can get out of my life, I never want to see you again, you get that sudden break. Now you got this big arc going on, right? That's not the type of putting down your burdens I'm speaking about. It's not this. Um, it doesn't have to be this big thing. It could be just like a letter of appreciation. I appreciate everything you've done for me, but it seems like we're going our separate ways, and that's just the season that we're in. It doesn't have to be a big thing. When Jinbo and Junbo, because I think Chinbo wanted to join the army, because he's pursuing power, and Junbo just wanted to have a simple life. So there was a moment of clarity again, like this. You always have these moments of clarity before, um, before you have to make a sacrifice, because you realize that something's about to change. And if you ignore the moment of clarity, you get that traumatic breakage where there's this big arc. And next thing you know, you're depressed now because you weren't disconnecting when you were told to, and there's an abrupt disconnection. Now you need to do some load shedding. Now there's a blackout. You might be depressed. You don't want to do nothing. You don't have no energy to do anything because all of your generators have short circuited or fried. And the messed up thing about having generators that even link to each other, because they all link to each other to compound all of the energy that they're supplying. Let's say the city is a 40, the generators need to supply at least 50 or 60 just to be able to combat any type of spikes or peaks, like the peak hours. Everybody is home at this time, so we have to make sure that energy is being supplied. Or all of the nightclubs open on Saturday, and they're going to be open all night. Can we sustain that? So yeah, you have to be able to know what was predictable. Things happen that you don't see coming. It's gonna happen, but that's why you have those backup generators, and those backup generators are your community, you know, and they help you out with bearing some of it sometimes, but sometimes that can backfire, and a load can become so heavy for one generator that again, let's use the same example. The city is a 40, y'all got a 50, so y'all good. But let's say one of the generators is down for maintenance, so you're kind of at a 45. And then you have another area where you have a disconnection in the line. You have an arc thing happening, so they're repairing that. So now you're down at 40. You're cutting it kind of close, and then somewhere else, lightning strikes a tree and it falls on the power line. Now you're at 35. Now you're below capacity. Um, and somewhere else, a generator, it was too old and it just stopped working. Now you're at 30. That's too much. You got to share some of that load. But what happens is if you have like four generators right next to each other, let's say, and all of them are helping each other out, but they can only put out 30. What happens is this one number one gets overloaded, and then all of that energy gets put on two, three, and four. So what do you think is going to happen to them? Because they were at 30, and then number one overloaded. Now you're at 25, and it's just going to keep cascading until you have a blackout. But now the whole grid is down. Like it didn't get shut down because of the fail safes that were put in place. It shut down because all of the machines were failing. So we don't know when we get in power again. I know it's like a lot of technical jargon too. I try to really willfully is making sense. I try to keep the technical jargon to the minimum, but I really thought it was interesting how electricity and the grids work, because I never really looked into it, and it's super fascinating. I actually wish Brother Darian was on too, so that he could add some stuff. It is a nervous breakdown um, on the radio, because there are four, technically three, but there are four levels to a power grid, right? First is generation, like you get the power, you harness the energy. And even people who are like, even electrical engineers, they're like, that's a misnomer, um, because you can't create or destroy energy. You can only harness it or convert it, right? So they just harness energy. They typically from heat. So they harness energy from heat, like they get some steam going from some water, and they convert that heat into electricity, right? So that's the generation phase. Next, you have transmission, where you basically take the energy you made. I really don't want to get into the technical stuff too much, so I'll just say you multiply it. And the reason you multiply it is so it can travel a long distance and not like fizzle out before it gets to where it needs to go. And once it gets there, you can like divide it again, right? So you make it, you step up, you go to where you need to go, and in order to not short circuit where you're going, you step back down, and then you go into the house, which would be um, the two last ones: distribution, which is when you send it out, and consumption, which is like what I'm doing now with this laptop and this light and this computer, and all these charges plugged in. I'm consuming electricity after it's been, distributed and transmitted and generated, right? But the transmission and distribution, that's like your nervous system, right? Because what does your nervous system do? It sends electrical signals from one place to the next place. Your brain interprets it. But if he was using Junbo as an example, he had a nervous breakdown because he went into shock, because it was such an extreme jolt that he could not bear. Like it was too much of a burden for him to bear. Because the only thing that he really displayed that he wanted was to be friends with Chinbo. Like that's the only thing that he really wanted. You know, that's what was guiding him. And when his friend sort of split up with him, he had to find who he was as a person. But when he saw his friend again, they were still cool. You know, so when there was that abrupt shock, like he kind of snapped, and it took a while for him to shed that load so that he could come back online again. You know, and sometimes we do that in very minute ways, and sometimes we do that in very obvious ways. But they're both important to take into consideration because you can be short circuiting a lot more than you realize. and but because you're not bedridden for like a strong or a month, you figure it's fine. You know, you don't realize that you're putting yourself through the ringer, and you don't necessarily have to because you can just free yourself and put your burden down. You know, and that's like the main thing I wanted to discuss, just in terms of load shedding and getting to the point where you can look at your grid and see and map it out and see what the original, go back to the original intention that your creator put inside of you. You know, go back to the vision that you have, or those traits that you always had when you were younger. You know, those things that no matter what people did, they could not get them out of you. You know, like there's certain things that you compromise on when you're a child, and there's other things that's like, if I can't do this around you, then I'm not gonna be around you. You know, but I'm not gonna not do this. The chairman, I definitely agree on the radio. It is a nervous breakdown, and I think these overloads, they happen to us way more than we'd like to admit, and the effects of suffering them, and suffering as in being a recipient of that karmic, um, that sort of karmic rebound, because you keep these people around you and you don't realize that their karma is affecting you. His whole life, Junbo was getting in trouble because of Jinbo. You know, he kept going into situations where he knew it was wrong, he knew it was off, but he did it anyway. He did it anyway, and it was because he wanted to be friends with this person. You know, but this person wanted power, so that was like the friction there, because he wanted power more than he wanted it. Like, you cool, we cool, but this isn't my main ambition, which is like that's what his journey was about. His original intention was, I'm going to be a powerful person, you know, but he didn't take the time to study how to keep power once he had it. You know, he didn't have that alternating current within him. He just was forward. And you know, there's certain things that you can sort of look at yourself and tell when you're moving with that AC current, because you can also have that DC current, but move directly backwards. And sometimes Junbo was guilty of it. So I took some notes when I was watching the film, and I won't say like who is who, but you can sort of, based on their description and their character, you could probably tell. But so I'm just going to go through this list, and then we can close out. Um, Attachment and desire. I can handle it. Drowning your sorrows. Being handled. Displacement. Okay, so I'll go through those very quick. Attachment and desire, that's Jimbo all day. Because that's what was driving him. He had the desire to be powerful and the attachment to the idea of that power. I can handle it was the thing that Junbo would say to himself. Like, no matter what burdens he would, or what kind of karmic debt he would incur just from being next to this person and moving the way that he was moving, he was like, whatever punishment I receive because of it, I can handle it. You know, I don't mind it as long as I can be next to my good friend. Drowning your sorrows, that's I can't remember her name. And she was in a lot of movies too. She was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Um, it'll come to me more than likely after the live. It'll come to me. Uh, Being Handled was something that showed up as well. And this was like there was a character who was basically like with this overly masculine um woman, if you can call her that, and she was basically like trying to pull him by his nose hairs because he he allowed them to make Michelle Yeoh, that's her name, Michelle Yeoh. Yeah, she was in that one. So she was like her husband, ex-husband now, but her husband was basically out with another woman, and this is a lesson too for men who sell for women who think like she have more money than me, so life can be sweet after I get with her. Like it's gonna get thrown in your face at every opportunity. She can't respect the fact that you know she's outperforming you, and she doesn't want to be better than you. And this dude couldn't see it, so anything she threw at him, was just yes, dear. Like that was his most famous line. But I brought that up because of the word displacement. And displacement is a psychological term when like prime example, you go to work, if a man goes to work, he gets yelled out by his boss, comes home, he yells at his wife. You know, he can't do anything to his boss because he perceives his boss as being above him on a hierarchy, you know, more powerful or someone who he can't like um he can't really do anything to him. You know, he can't be reciprocal like after you I don't need this job. That he feels like he can't say that because he has his family to feed and he's dependent on this job. So what he would do instead, rather than jeopardize the job, he would go home and yell at his wife because the stored up energy has to go somewhere. So he stores up all of this energy and he lets it go on his wife. His wife feels like she can't do anything to him. He is the main breadwinner. So now she goes and she yells at the children. You know, that's an example of displacement. And that's what happened with I'll let you watch the scene. But that's what kind of happens with the scene with Michelle Yeoh and Michelle Yeoh's character and her husband. You know, so Junbo, this was about him. He trusted in the flow of life, and he was very cool about. He lived a durational life. You know, he found contentment in wherever the wind blew him, but he wasn't like without principle. You know, he had a very interesting character. Like no matter what was going on, he was cool with wherever he was at, but he was still him. You know, he had a very peaceful vibe to him like that. Like he maintained his character in the midst of a situation, in the midst of chaos. Um, there was a moment that preceded the split. It was like that moment of clarity with Jinbo and Junbo, and it was like how much of your dignity are you willing to sacrifice in order to hold on to this burden? That was like the moment of clarity. I won't spoil that either. It's a good movie. I really don't want to spoil it, but these are just some things that I drew from it. Standing on principles was another thing, and it's related to the previous point. Like how much are you willing to sacrifice? How much of your dignity are you willing to sacrifice just to tie yourself to this burden because of just how long you've been tied to the burden. This thing with Junbo, what he did was rather than move forward, he would reminisce a lot. And I think it's a very common thing that most people do. Like when we have an issue that seems it seems like too much. You have a situation, maybe you have a task to complete and you feel like you're not up to the task. Like you ever had one of those moments and you're like, I can remember a simpler time when I didn't have to work to eat. I remember when I was a teenager and I was old enough to think I knew stuff, but young enough to where people would feed me and not expect me to pay them. Yeah, I remember those times when I didn't have to pay rent. Yeah, I wish I was a child again. I wish I wasn't responsible for my life. People have those moments and they don't want to move beyond them because the road ahead seems so arduous. And that's really what Jinbo was bringing out in Junbo. Jinbo was always looking forward. He had that AC current flowing through him. He was always moving in one direction, whereas Junbo was like he would move forward until things would get kind of confusing, and then he would reminisce about growing up in the monastery. You know. Oh, there's another thing about sacrificing indiscriminately. What you remove from your life, like it's not like a dollar is a dollar is a dollar. It doesn't matter which dollar I pull out of my wallet, a dollar is a dollar. So it doesn't matter which one I spend and which one I keep. It's not like that. Everything in your life has its own vibration. Like every person, every situation, every um, every person, every situation, every relationship, everything, like every possession that you may have, it has its own vibration. And depending on what you keep and what you remove, it's like feng shui. Everything gives off its own vibration. And if you can arrange them harmoniously, um, you'll find that energy flows in and out of your life with a lot less resistance. But if you just, I don't think I need this shirt, you just throw it away. Uh, or I like this shirt. So if I like this shirt and I get rid of it, then it shows that I'm willing to move forward because I'm willing to throw away my favorite shirt. It's not like that. It's what kind of energy or signal is this thing giving off? And is it harmonious with whatever everything else is that I have? And I think about the questions you had asked a lot on the levity segment. He's like, how many things do you own? You know, how can you distinguish what's giving off what energy if you're a hoarder? She did a podcast on hoarders. That's a good one too that you can check out. But if you're a hoarder, if you're always hoarding all of these energies and you don't even know what they mean, you don't even know what kind of signals they're giving off. You're just hoarding it. Then you don't know what's causing the disharmony. You can't tell anymore. It's sort of like with Junbo. He got so frazzled mentally, he didn't care about how he looked, whether or not he ate, if the water he drank was clean. Um, he didn't care about none of that. He was still super strong, but he didn't care about nothing. And that even speaks to being weighed down and neglecting your self care, um, allowing your environment to just spiral out of control, allowing people to talk to you in any sort of way, or allowing any sort of person to just move in and out of your space without any type of proper boundaries. They just pop up during the Shabbat and say, "Hey, what you saying, girl? I ain't seen you in so long." It's like, you know what day it is? Who are you? Why are you in my life and you don't know what today is? So there's a lot. Um, yeah, there's a lot in this movie. There's a lot in this movie. I could go on with it. That's like another thing. But yeah, willfully you all got something out of this. It was something that was fascinating to me in terms of the energy and the season that we're in, the challenge that we're dealing with. The lesson, the beautiful lesson about just being grateful that preceded that challenge. Everything that is just yeah, it's real feng shui like. So I really appreciate everything that you has put out, and has charged us with. And yeah, that's it for me. Y'all know I go real awkward with closing out, so I'm just like, yeah, bye. you know. So willfully, you all have a restful Shabbat, beautiful Shabbat. If this was helpful in any kind of way, definitely leave a comment below. Um, Not just this segment, but all of the other segments that are posted in the chat, all of the segments that have been preceded this month. A lot of the segments that are still on hiatus for the month of December, and it gives us all a chance to sit back and recalibrate and see how we want to tackle um, topics that are going to be coming forward in the future. So right now it's just the farm. I'm gonna say foundation Fridays. Jeez. But it's basically the Shabbat build on Yom Shishi, and you're gonna be seeing Sister Morea next strong, and she's gonna be spitting hot fire next strong. But yeah, look out for the annual retreat, the winter retreat. Well, it's a couple of days away. Is this strong, isn't it? This strong, isn't it? Yeah, it's coming up this strong. So yeah, definitely, look forward to hearing some of the stories coming from there, some of the experiences. Um, but yeah, man, it's a beautiful time, a beautiful season. Definitely be kind to one another, be kind to yourselves. Yes, Yom Kamishi, right. Yeah, but that's it for me though. I'm gonna head out. Enjoy your Shabbat. Rest well. Peace.